The Raiders have a new head coach, but no GM as of yet. That plus a whole lot more comes up on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, Monday, January 22nd, 2024.
Just win. Just win. Just win. Just win.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won. And won. And won. And won. And won.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts to get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available. As always, if you're checking us out on YouTube, thank you. We appreciate that. The show has grown in a major way, over 11,000 subscriptions. Think that that's awesome. We appreciate that. Of course, we appreciate my man Ari. He's done a great job each and every day making sure we're up on YouTube, looking good and sounding good. And matter of fact, Ari continues to tweak it and make it look even better, right? He continues to work with it and try to, just round it into shape and make it look even better and better each and every day. So again, big ups to my man Ari. Does a hell of a job. Definitely appreciate him. You can hit him up on Twitter again at Ari Produces. You can hit me up at your boy Q254. And we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. A lot of feedback from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all over the weekend. Got tons of calls and texts. We'll try to get to as many as possible. Of course, a lot of them about the new head coach, Antonio Pierce, and a lot of them about the quarterback conversation that we've been having on the show the past couple days. And we'll get back to some of those. We'll get to that feedback, like I said, in segment number 3. But we'll get back to that quarterback conversation probably on another day, but definitely get as much feedback in as possible in segment number 3. Segment number 2, today is a day that is near and dear to my heart, near and dear to my family's heart. We'll talk about it. We'll tell you why and just break it down coming up in segment number 2 of today's show. And then here in segment number 1, I'd like to hit you with the news and notes of the day, whatever I was able to gather over the weekend leading into today's show. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. And of course, today's show is being brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. I'll tell you a lot more about them coming up after segment number 1. But with the news and notes, the Raiders have a head coach. The 23rd head coach in the silver and black history is Antonio Pierce. It was announced on the 19th, which is Friday, and that was the day of the Tuck rule, right? That was the same day that the Tuck rule, that tragedy happened when it comes to the Raiders. That was an awful day, awful play. I don't have to tell you. You know how bad it was, but yeah. So Antonio Pierce is now the official head coach. The Raiders put out a nice little trailer, a nice little video on their, social media team to announce that AP is the guy. And still no GM. And the thing about it is, going into this process, it was always believed, and I know I talked about it plenty of times here on the show, that they were going to name the GM. The GM was going to hire the head coach, and it was going to go in that order, and I believe that that is the right order to go. And I still believe that's the right order to go, but that's not what happened in this scenario. Antonio Pierce is the head coach, but there is no GM as of yet. And basically, it boils down to Ed Dodds, and it boils down to Champ Kelly. And if you look at the timeline, going back to last week on Monday, Antonio Pierce, Champ Kelly, and Richard Seymour were all out at the Martin Luther King Day parade, representing the Raiders, and it really looked like Champ Kelly was going to be the guy, and there was no doubt about it. He was going to be the GM, and I believe they still thought that as of Tuesday. Then all of a sudden, something changed. And from the conversations that I had over the weekend with, folks that are a lot smarter than me in this scenario, and I know there's a bunch of articles written about it as well, from The Athletic, from Vic Tafur and to Sean Reed, and I know Vinny Bonsignore put out something in the Las Vegas Review-Journal and put out a couple tweets over the weekend as well. It really looks like it's coming down to Champ Kelly and Ed Dodds, and I think that the Raiders this year at least are going to try to have Ed Dodds and Champ Kelly. And that's something I thought before. I had talked about it. I felt like they both were going to have an opportunity to be in the front office, but I thought because Ed Dodds has been the GM or the assistant GM, in Indianapolis for as long as he has and has done a lot of the heavy lifting. Chris Ballard allows those guys to do a bunch of the heavy lifting, and so he's really put Dodds in a position where he knows how to run a team already. He's already basically been in that GM role. I thought, okay, maybe he's going to be the head of football operations, and Champ Kelly was going to be the GM, because I thought that everybody was on the same page with Champ Kelly. But what I understood over the weekend is that everybody's not on the same page with Champ Kelly, and the fact that the football people that are in the room that are making these decisions. Remember, it's owner Mark Davis, it's president Sandra Douglas Morgan, board member Larry Delson, senior vice president, director of football administrator Tom Delaney, advisor Ken Herrick, and then former player Richard Seymour. All the football people in that room really want Dodds, and anyone who's not the football people are leaning Champ Kelly. And so that's not That's not the dynamic that you want. In my opinion, you want the football people to get the guy that they trust to make the football decisions, right? Because that's what it's all about. It can't be about, a popularity contest or this, that, and the other, or, who's said this, who's this friends with this guy. It can't be that. If this team is going to get it right, look, we just came off the divisional round of the playoffs, right? The whole weekend. If the Raiders are going to end up being one of those teams that play on days like over the weekend and playing in championship games and have an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to get the football side of things correct, right? And I respect everyone in that front office. I respect everyone in that organization that is doing good things for the team. But on the football side of things, it's got to be taken care of by football people. So if that's Ed Dodds, then so be it. Then it's Ed Dodds. But what it sounds like, they're going to try to have Dodds be the GM and Champ Kelly be the assistant GM. And I don't know if that works. I don't know if Champ Kelly would go for that. I know that he's had one other interview, and that was with the Carolina Panthers, and that's about it. I know Dodds has had a couple of interviews with the Chargers and also with the Raiders, and he's a guy that, a lot of people respect around the league. So he's a guy that, again, has been there, done that for like 6 seasons as the assistant GM there in Indianapolis with the Colts. So I don't know, if Dodds and Champ Kelly have a relationship. I don't know that they don't have a relationship. So I don't know how that works. But it sounds like it's going to be something that's going to be worked out in the next day or so. And I think that they're going to make an announcement pretty soon so they can have an introductory press conference for both the GM and, of course, Antonio Pierce as the head coach. And, the Raiders, their social media team, their .com side of things, they reached out to me to come in on Tuesday to do some kind of recording and conversation. They, just basically a behind the shield type episode. And I think that they want to have all the everything, all the I's dotted and all the T's already crossed, right, by the time that happens, because they don't want to have any outdated information out there. So that's why I'm assuming that it's going to happen within the next day or so, that the GM will be announced. But it's a split room right now when it comes to Dodds and when it comes to Champ Kelly. So we'll have to see how it shakes out. But again, my thing is I like Champ Kelly. I know him, got to talk to him a few times, really good dude. I know he's very well respected around the league as well. But if the football people don't believe that he's the right guy for the football job, then he shouldn't be the right guy for the job. It's just that simple, right? You've got to get it right. You got the head coach. I believe you got the right head coach in place. Now go get the right guy to be the GM and lead the charge forward so the roster could look like it's supposed to look. And again, they have an opportunity to have this team playing on championship weekend or playing in the Super Bowl instead of watching someone else play at their house like they will be this upcoming year on February 11th when it's time for the Super Bowl. One more little quick nugget I have for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. I want you to hear from Rich Gannon. He does a radio show on SiriusXM Radio, and he talked about the hiring of Antonio Pierce and how he's pretty pumped up. This was on Friday from SiriusXM Radio. Here's Rich Gannon.
Well, really some good news today for Raider fans. Mark Davis decided to stick with Antonio Pierce, and I think this is not a real surprise to a lot of us. You watch the job that Antonio Pierce did this year in really a difficult situation, taking over for Josh McDaniels. They fired the offensive coordinator, Mick Lombardi. They also moved on from their general manager, Dave Ziegler. And so there was a lot of turmoil. And I think he brought some stability, some confidence to a young football team. I think you look at the development of their defense and how well they played under Patrick Graham after that decision. I think he did a great job with the communication. I think the players really believed in the vision that Antonio Pierce had for the Raiders. We've talked to a number of those players, including Max Crosby. We had Aiden OConnell on our show, and all the players to a man said the same thing, that Antonio gave him a vision, was a great communicator, was passionate about Raider Nation, and really, I think, was honest with the players in terms of what needed to happen in order for them to move forward and be a more competitive football team. And I think this is just the beginning of the building blocks that Mark Davis is trying to put in place. I think the important thing for Antonio Pierce moving forward is really assembling a staff, keeping Patrick Graham on the defensive side of the ball. It looks like as if they're going to make a lot of changes to the offensive side of the ball, and they have to continue to develop this roster. But I think a strong finish in 2023 was important under Antonio Pierce. I think he is passionate about the Raiders. I think he's a former player that the players believe in. And I'm excited for the future for the Las Vegas Raiders.
So there is Rich Gannon right there from SiriusXM Radio talking about the hiring of Antonio Pierce. And, he really believes that AP is the right guy. And that's what I really like about the hiring is the fact that, all these former players are big fans of AP. He's brought them into the organization. He's talked to them. He's picked their brain. He's brought others from the outside in like Marvin Lewis and Tom Coughlin and Adam Gase. And I believe Marvin Lewis is going to be some part of the staff as well. I'm not sure exactly what his role will be, but that'll be defined sooner rather than later. There's a lot of the offensive coaches. There's actually a lot of coaches right now that have basically been let go. My guy Tristan Kuhn actually tweeted out over the weekend coaches that are no longer with the team. Bo Hardegree, interim offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. Jerry Slabinski, the tight end coach. Matt Lombardi, the assistant wide receiver analyst. Matt Edwards, a pass rush specialist and defensive tackle coach. Chris Ash, the co-defensive back coach, and Keith Hayward, defensive quality control. And Keith Hayward was already taking a defensive coordinator job, I believe, at South Alabama. So he was already gone, but it became official over the weekend. Again, my guy Tristan Kuhn tweeted that out as well. So that's what I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Coming up in segment number 2, take a little bit of a switch, take a little bit of a turn, go away from the Raiders for a quick minute to talk about today and why it's so near and dear to my heart and so near and dear to my family's heart. That's coming up in segment number 2. Is Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about LinkedIn Jobs. And not only are they the title sponsor of today's show, but they're a really good tool that you can use because at the start of the new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals. That's billion with a B, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. It's why small businesses rank LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is quick and easy. What you got to do is post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Take a little bit of a turn or a little bit of a break away from Raiders conversation. And I know this is the Locked On Raiders podcast, and I know that, it's supposed to be the main thing is the main thing all the time. But I like to take creative license and creative rights every once in a while to step away from the Raiders and really honor my son Kimani, who passed away on this day in 2020. It's been 4 years already. The time has flown by. They say time heals all. It does not. Let me tell you that, not that I discourage anyone that could be going through the same thing and not trying to tell you that, it's going to be bad, but it just, to me, it doesn't get any better. So Kimani was born on September 19th, 1999 and passed away January 22nd, 2020. And it's so wild because going into 2020, I thought it was going to be the greatest year of like my professional career. I was at ESPN Central Texas at the time, and I was going to be going to New Orleans on New Year's for Baylor playing Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. So who doesn't want to start the New Year's in New Orleans, right? It's the greatest place on earth. Why not? That's fantastic. Then the Super Bowl was going to be played in Miami. Who doesn't want to go to Miami to cover the Super Bowl, right? It's fantastic. Then the draft was scheduled to be in Las Vegas. Who doesn't want to go to Las Vegas to cover the draft? Like, I thought I hit the trifecta. It's like, man, I'm in New Orleans, I'm in Miami, I'm going to be in Las Vegas, all within like a 5-month stretch, basically January 1 to the end of April. Like, oh, man, it doesn't get any better than this. Well, then that call came on January 22nd, the morning of January 22nd. And, man, I had so many missed calls. And I remember waking up, looking at my phone like, the hell is this number? And because it's not saved in my phone, and I very rarely get calls and texts from people that aren't saved in my phone. I mean, I think that's kind of how it is now, right? We have our contacts and we have our contacts saved. So this number over and over and over, looking at it, I was like, okay, well, sometimes because my number is a strange number that I get a bunch of people misdialing. I was like, man, someone was really misdialing my number at, like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, whatever time it was, right? It was super early in the morning. I woke up when I get up about 5:30. I got to work at 6. Central time. So yeah, so it was super early on the West Coast. But anyway, looking at all these numbers, and so I was just it. Then finally I'm at the job and I get a call from that number again. And so I kind of answer the phone with attitude, like, what? Like, yes, because finally it's like, man, someone's calling me all these times. Let me just answer it. Well, obviously that was the call that my son had passed away, and that was my son's mom. And to be honest, I didn't even recognize her voice. I couldn't even understand her. And obviously that's understandable given the news that she was trying to deliver. But, man, once she delivered that news, man, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And all of a sudden it's just like, wait, it's like you're so in shock that you don't even believe it. Like, wait, hold on. Wait, what? Right. And that's just kind of how it was. And then processing it obviously was really, really a bad situation for me, the family, everything, and honestly, we're still processing it and still going through it. And, it's so bizarre. And I talk about this all the time. I always try to honor him on his birthday, which is September 19th, and then also show love on today. I don't like to call it an anniversary. I look at anniversaries as celebratory days, and this is not a day to celebrate at all as far as I'm concerned, but it's a day to honor. So, it's like just kind of thinking about everything and me being here in Las Vegas and the fact that he loved Las Vegas and he never made it to 21, but he was going to have his 21st birthday in Vegas. Like, he wanted to come here and celebrate so bad. And now I'm here like every day, right? I was in Texas at the time, and now I'm here every day. And I just think like, man, this is where Kimani wanted to be, right? This is where he wanted to celebrate. And, I'm sure he probably would come here and visit all the time. If knowing that, hey, my dad's in Vegas, I got to go see my dad. Obviously he doesn't get that chance. And, it's wild. I've been, thinking about this day, obviously knowing that it's coming up. I don't want to say I dread these days, but I just know what it is. And I never know how I'm going to feel. And kind of like the whole week leading up to this day, I've been, feeling kind of, down and out a little bit, little spirits down, but I try not to ever show it. And really in this business, you can't, because nobody cares if you're having a bad day or not. So, and I try to keep that to myself and not really affect too many other people with it. But lately I've been seeing this commercial on TV, and I don't know what it's for, but it's a commercial where this dude and his son are at a football game, and he's like, I'm at the football game, I'm at the grocery store, I'm at the football game and the grocery store. I think it's the dumbest commercial ever, right? But I promise you, every time I see it, there's a kid in that commercial, the kid, the dude's son in that commercial, and he's wearing the ugliest puff jacket. It looks like it could be like an old Cross Colors or something from back in the day, something wild like that. But every time I see that commercial, I think of Kimani, because he literally looked like that at one point, and especially before he smiles real big. But before he smiles and he just kind of looks at his dad, I promise you that he almost looks dead on Kimani. And so every time I see that commercial, as dumb as that commercial is, I still watch it, because I feel like for a quick second I'm checking out my son, right? I'm seeing him, because he literally looks like that, which is wild to think, and again, the commercial is terrible, and I don't even know what it's for. It's some kind of combo of being at the store and at the football game, and they were wearing jackets, and it didn't even look like it was cold. But I guess that's a whole nother conversation. That's not important in this conversation. But yeah, so it just, it always comes back to, me thinking about everything that's been going on and how these last 4 years have shaken out. And, all I can do is hope that, he's proud of what he sees from me. Right. And obviously I don't know until I get that opportunity to have that conversation with him. And nobody knows when that's going to be. You never know who's going to be here, who's not going to be here, how long they're going to be here. You just never know. Right. So I always say it at the end of the show, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Like, I honestly mean that. And anytime anyone leaves the house, I always tell them to be safe. And I know they get tired of hearing me say that. Oh gosh, here's this guy go. Be safe, be safe, be safe. But I so mean it, because you just don't know. You don't know the next opportunity that you have, and and you want to make sure that your family members always make it back to the house safely. So just want to show some love and honor my son Kimani, who again passed away on January 22nd, 2020. His birthday was on September 19th, 1999. So we always have, during the regular season, we always have Kimani's game, and hopefully one of these years, we can have Kimani's game in January, right? And the Raiders will be playing in the, the playoffs or potentially the Super Bowl, or they'll be working their way to the Super Bowl, right? Maybe they'll be playing in the divisional round of the playoffs, so we can have Kimani's game in January. That should be the goal. That would be a cool little goal. He would appreciate that, right? As I know, Raider Nation would appreciate it for more than just him, but it would be cool to be able to do another show and honor him and hashtag Kimani's game with them playing, but obviously they're not. So just wanted to take a few minutes to show love and, just let him hear me and know that, how much he means to me and how much I miss him each and every day and how much his family misses him each and every day. And, hopefully these words mean something to him. And, hopefully you don't mind me taking a few minutes out of the show to honor him on this day that, of course, is definitely a tough day for all of us. But that's what I got for you. So much love to my son. Kimani Romel Myers passed away on January 22nd, 2020. Coming up in segment number 3, your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. We'll get to that as soon as I tell you about FanDuel. And, well, it's getting down to the wire now when it comes to the NFL, right? Super Wildcard Weekend in the book. Divisional round in the books. Championship next week, and then boom, February 11th will be the Super Bowl. That's all right. It's still a great time to get in on the action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is easy to use. There's so many different ways to bet, like same-game parlays. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best way to find popular parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab and a whole lot more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make your first bet a layup with FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and text straight off the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with a call from Raider Rich in the 831. He's calling to talk about the quarterback conversation and has a suggestion. Here he is, Raider Rich in the 831.
Hey, Q, it's Raider Rich, 831. Hey, man, I really appreciate that guy you had on, man, with that Pro Football Focus. I just wanted to get your thoughts on Justin Fields. I mean, a second and some change. I kind of like that, personally. Like, I don't think that's given up a lot, personally. I know everyone's going to have an opinion, right? What do you think about, doing that, like a second and some change for Justin Fields and maybe getting, Wiggins? Wiggins out of, I'm drawing a blank right now. Wiggins out of Clemson, I believe, the corner. I know we have some corners, or possibly that Newton kid out of Illinois. Obviously, I love Jaden Daniels. Cooper out of Iowa. I know I'm thinking of a corner or an interior lineman, but who would you go first overall then at that point if the Raiders were to get Fields for a second and some change? Because I think that's actually not bad. I think that's a pretty good. You know what you're getting. Just want to hear your thoughts, man, because I think that's definitely an upgrade right there, and we can still get a legit defensive player. That's my thoughts. Hoping to hear yours. Thanks, man.
Rich, thanks for the call. I appreciate you. And look, I wouldn't make Justin Fields my first priority, right? He wouldn't be my option 1, probably wouldn't be my option 2. He might be an option that I would make if I just realized, look, you can't trade up. You're not going to be able to trade up and get where you need to go to get who you want, right? And I think that the leaders in the clubhouse should be Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. I don't know why I keep forgetting to bring up Michael Penix, but Michael Penix is a hell of a quarterback as well. He would be an option. I know that his injury history is a little scary. That would be my one concern. And, of course, the last game that you saw from him was the national championship game where they lost, and he didn't have a very good game. So he'll probably drop his stock in the draft a little bit, but he's still going to be a first-round quarterback. But I do like Michael Penix. I always just forget to bring him into that conversation. But as far as that trade, I mean, you can get him at a reasonable rate. His contract this year is very reasonable. You got to pick up the 5th-year option, obviously, and then you got to make a decision. Is he a $40 million a year quarterback if you do hold on to him? That's for the smart people to figure out, not me. But if you do have Justin Fields, what do you do at 13? I would say you probably go get the best offensive lineman because I think that that right tackle spot definitely needs to be solidified. It's been far too long, and I know the Raiders have tried multiple times, and it just hasn't worked. But really, they're in a good position, right? They can go get the best defensive player, like a defensive tackle, interior defensive guy. They can go and get a really good corner, a hot shot corner, if they feel like that there's one that they can get that they like that will fit with what they want to do. I think they're in a good position. That's why I don't have any problem with them just going and giving what it takes to go and get their quarterback, because I think that the roster is pretty good, right? They obviously have holes that they need to fill, but it's a pretty good roster. They've got some really talented players on the team. So I think it would be a good time to go make your quarterback move if you're going to go make that quarterback move. But again, Justin Fields could end up being in play. He just wouldn't be my option 1 or 2. He'd probably be my option 3, maybe even my break in case emergency break glass option as far as I'm concerned. But thank you for that call, my man. I do appreciate you. It's good to hear from you. Up next is a text from Dan and Martinez. It says, hey, Q, it's Dan and Martinez. Question for you. Why do I keep hearing about Ed Dobbs as head of football operations? He and Champ Kelly have the same title, similar resumes, and never had a chance to sit in the GM seat for any team. I like the idea of bringing him in possibly as a GM with Kelly retaining his role as assistant GM. But if we're looking at a head of football ops, we should be looking to poach current successful GMs like Jason Light or Brian Gutekunst before offering the job to any assistant GM. Just a thought. Thanks for your time. It's Dan and Martinez. No, you're right. you're right. And it sounds like that's what the Raiders are trying to do. They're trying to hire Dodds to be the GM and try to keep Champ Kelly around as the assistant GM. You're absolutely right about that. The only reason I thought that he could be potentially that head of football operations is because he's done so much of the heavy lifting there in Indianapolis with the Colts. So Chris Ballard has let him do a lot of that. So I understand where you're coming from, but that was the thinking that I had going into it. I can't answer for anybody else, but I could just tell you what I was thinking when I said that Dodds and Kelly could be both in the front office, because I do know the Raiders have liked Dodds for a while, and if McDaniels and Ziegler hadn't been a team, a duo, they would have hired Dodds already. But because McDaniels was the guy, Ziegler came with them, and I think Dave Ziegler did some really good things. I really do. I don't have any problem with him. He just ended up being collateral damage with Josh McDaniels, but I thought he did some really good things as a first-time GM. But thanks so much for the text. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Bill out of the 559. He's calling to talk about the quarterback conversation and what he thinks the Raiders should do at the position and around that position. Here he is, Bill from the 559.
Yo, Q, this is your boy Bills 559. Wanted to just chime in a little bit on the quarterback conversation that a lot of us seem to be kind of split on, right? Here's the thing. I think Aiden OConnell has the ability to be the starter. I know, right? People are going to say, hey, he's not mobile. He has cement feet. I get it, right? He's not the most mobile guy, but mobility doesn't win games, right? You need a quarterback that can stand tough and deliver the ball, keep his head on his shoulders, and I think Aiden does a great job of that, right? Let's look at somebody like Hurts, right? Jaden Hurst played against Tampa Bay last week. He's mobile. He got destroyed, got bodied by that pass rush, right? So it's really more important, I think, that if we want to get into a mode of building for the future, draft the line, right? Let's not trade up and get rid of our capital in the draft because we want a big flashy name at the quarterback. This guy's going to be a rookie, right? He's going to come in and save all of our problems. I just don't see it. Let's be smart. Draft the right tackle, right? Draft some linemen, right? Let's improve there, right? Good teams win in the trenches. And then a good quarterback like Aiden, who I believe he is a good one, he can keep his head on his shoulders, deliver the ball, let the guys do the work for him, That's it. That's my 2 cents. Go Raiders.
Bill, thanks for the call. I appreciate you. And it sounds good, man. Build the lineup and everything will be fine, right? I just don't believe that that's how you get it done these days, right? The quarterback position is evolving. I know when people always say and talk about look at the quarterbacks that weren't mobile, like Brady and Manning and all these other guys like Drew Brees. I get it. I totally get it. But the position is evolving. I just feel like you need to be able to move around, right? O'Connell is a guy that's proven he can win games. He's accurate. He's smart. But he's just missing that one element that I believe, again, just my opinion, that you need to have is that mobile quarterback. You brought up Hurts, right? And he got destroyed by Tampa Bay. And he did. You're not wrong. Couple things here, though. The Eagles, they're not a very good team, right? And they haven't been a very good team, and they weren't a very good team the last 2 months of the season. And then, obviously, they took that first-round defeat to Tampa Bay. And Jalen was clearly hurt. So, that's one thing. And I don't want to make any excuses and sound like I'm making excuses, so I won't. But I will put this out there. We just watched the divisional round of the playoffs, right? We saw 8 teams play. 7 out of the 8 quarterbacks have good mobility. And I'm not saying, and I don't want people to confuse mobility with like a Lamar Jackson type guy, a guy that's going to run for 1,000 yards, a guy that is actively running. No, I'm just talking about a guy who's mobile. So you look at Stroud versus Lamar. Obviously, Lamar is the weapon, right? He's a video game. He's incredible. But Stroud can use his legs. A lot of people didn't think that he was mobile enough, and Stroud gets it done with his legs if he needs to, right? Does he prefer to stand in the pocket and throw it around? Absolutely, as he should, right? And he's really accurate too, but he has mobility, and you saw it on Saturday, as a matter of fact. He was running around when he had to, and he had to run around a lot because Baltimore has a stingy defense, and they were getting after him. Jordan Love versus Brock Purdy. Jordan Love, he has more mobility. Again, I'm not looking for Olympic sprinter. I'm just looking for a guy that's willing and able to take off if need be. Purdy, he can run and take off if he needs be. He's got mobility. Mayfield versus Goff, and I would say Goff is the only one that really doesn't. And even I saw him try to take off on over the weekend. And Baker Mayfield, he could run, right? I mean, it's not something that, again, it's not something that these guys want to do. Then it's not their first and foremost thing. But if you're looking at all these guys, they all have mobility. And then, of course, we saw Mahomes and Allen to close out the weekend. Both those guys are very, very mobile. I had one guy hit me up over the weekend, was like, Q, when's the last time a mobile guy won the Super Bowl? And I was like, well, I don't know. Patrick Mahomes just won the Super Bowl. Matter of fact, he's done it twice. He's mobile. Like, he's the absolute definition of mobile, right? He's not a guy that's going to take off and sprint on you all the time. But if the play breaks down and he can make things happen with his legs, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I think that the Raiders need, is a guy that can do that. Take off, pick up first downs. Like, even Josh Allen is obviously, he's a bigger part of the game plan when it comes to running, but you don't need to have that guy. I'm not looking for the guy that you have to have as part of the game plan as just a runner. I'm just looking for a guy that has mobility. Aiden O'Connell doesn't have it. It's not really something you could teach. You can try to push him to do it. If it's not in your mind naturally, you're just not going to really do it. So again, I don't have anything against Aiden O'Connell. I think he's a good quarterback. I do think he's going to probably be a really good career backup, and that's okay. That's okay. This year has proven that you need to have a really good backup because things are going to happen. Over 60 quarterbacks played this past season, over 60, and there's only 32 teams. So that obviously lets you know that you need to have a really good backup plan. Thanks for the call. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Assassin's Ghost. Hey, Q, Assassin's Ghost here. Watching Detroit play earlier made me think, why not us? Dan Campbell has that team believing. Get us a good quarterback and an OC, and we could do the same. Hopefully Patrick Graham stays, but can't knock a guy on a promotion if he becomes a head coach. Peace out from Assassin's Ghost. And, yeah, it looks like Patrick Graham is cool with staying as a defensive coordinator as long as he doesn't get that head coaching job. Now, he is going to interview with the Seahawks for the second time, so there's clear interest there for Patrick Graham. They're bringing him in for a second interview along with the other ones that they've talked to as well, so it's not just him. It's everyone that they've talked to for that open head coaching job. But if he gets a head coaching job, yeah, you can't blame that. But if he doesn't, it sounds like he's very willing to stay on as a defensive coordinator. And I think that's a really good thing. Him and AP together, I think, is good. And I'm with you. Go get a good quarterback. Go get a really good quarterback, a guy that you believe is your guy, and get a really good offensive coordinator, someone who's experienced, someone who's creative. And I think you're onto something, right? The Raiders have a defense that can get it done. Just got to unleash that offense and figure out what went wrong the last year with that offense, because that offense was not good at all, even though it has all those weapons. Thanks so much for the text. I appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Lodi, California Raider. He's calling to shout out AP on getting the job, and then also has a quarterback question. Here he is, Lodi, California Raider.
What up, Q? California Raider here. Want to make a little shout out to AP. I'm glad he's our head coach. I'm glad we got the right guy. To me, he's the right guy. He's what Raiders is all about. His verbiage, how he talks, how he leads, how he lets his players express themselves, I think is very important. But here's my question to you. I know it's going to be a crazy offseason, and we still have to, at this point, still hire a GM and a offensive coordinator and staff. But my question to you is, and I don't even know if it's mathematically possible, is there a world, I know it's going to sound crazy, is there a world where Aaron Rodgers becomes a Las Vegas Raider? I know there's always been rumors of Devontae Adams going over there, but is there a chance he can come over here? Just wanted to see your thought on that. Much love to you, Q. You're my boy. Lodi, California Raider, out.
Thank you for the call, my man. And no, I don't see any scenario where that happens. I don't see Aaron Rodgers ending up with the Raiders. Now, I thought that was a chance before the Jets went and made the move for him, but that organization loves them some Aaron Rodgers. They're not going to let that guy go at all, right? Whatever he says, they do, right? I mean, he's the king of the castle there. They ain't doing nothing. He's not going anywhere. And honestly, with all that drama that he brings, I wouldn't want him anyway, right? I mean, I thought it could have been a potential last year because of the connection with Devontae and him. Obviously, that makes sense, but it didn't happen. So we move on, right? And obviously, he only lasted 4 plays in the 2023 season anyway. So now he's coming off an Achilles. He's very expensive, and he's that much older. So yeah, I don't. For all those reasons and then some, I don't see that happening. But thanks so much for the call. I do appreciate you. I think I got time for one more text. How about this text from Jim in the 765? He says, hey, Q, Jim from the 765. That's right. I'm a longtime Purdue season ticket holder. I've watched Drew Brees, Kyle Orton, and Aiden O'Connell live and in color. I prophesize that if we go get a quarterback in the draft, we make a mistake. Build the line that protects whoever is there. Breeze will be in the Hall of Fame. He was a pocket passer. Brady, a pocket passer. Peyton Manning, a pocket passer. All Hall of Fame players. Fields, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, all mobile, and almost all of them injured virtually half of the year every year. That's the problem with mobile quarterbacks. Go back and watch Aiden in college. He isn't afraid to run. Here he was a rookie that did what he was told. Like AP said about himself, Aiden was playing for 10 weeks with house money. 5-4 with a suspect first-time offensive coordinator, 3-1 divisional games, all while learning on the fly. Make him number one going into the season. OTAs, mandatory minicamp, training camp, all behind a bolstered offensive line, and the Raiders are 11-6 next year. That's from Jim and 765. And thanks for the text. I appreciate you. I appreciate the support for Aiden OConnell as well. I just think you need better. I think you need more, and I think that's okay, right? I mean, he could end up being a good quarterback, but I think why not have better? Why settle for good, right? I don't think anyone's looking at Aiden O'Connell think he'll ever be elite. He'll never be Drew Brees, right? He'll never be that Hall of Famer. He won't be Peyton Manning. He's not going to be Tom Brady, right? And that's the obvious. I mean, there's things that he does he does well, and I know he was just a rookie, and he can improve, but he's not going to be a Hall of Famer. I think it's very obvious that he's not going to be a Hall of Famer. But he can do some good things. I, again, just prefer mobility. That's fine. You don't have to agree with that. That's cool. Again, I support Aiden O'Connell. I think he did some really good things. He was put into a tough position. I was glad that when he finally got the time to actually play game after game after game consistently, I thought that was good for him to show what he can do. But I think that pretty much for the consensus is that the Raiders need to upgrade their quarterback position. I think it's just that simple. You upgrade your quarterback position, you get a really creative offensive play caller, and you go to work and see what happens. But again, that's just me. We'll see what they do. They're sitting there at pick number 13 right now, so they very easily could roll with Aiden O'Connell. They could, let him have the keys to everything going into the offseason and him come back next year, and he'll probably be better. But is he going to be able to compete with Mahomes? Is he going to compete with Herbert? Is he going to compete with Allen? Is he going to compete with Lamar? Is he going to be able to compete with Tua? Is he going to be able to compete with Joe Burrow? Like, I'm talking about all the really good quarterbacks in the AFC, right? I don't see him in that category being able to compete with those guys. But again, that's just me. But thanks so much for that text. I do appreciate you. And we'll get back to more texts and calls coming up tomorrow. Don't have any more time left on today's show. Maybe we'll be talking about the GM. Maybe the Raiders have finally decided if either Ed Dodds or Champ Kelly. Only time will tell. We'll have that conversation. We'll get back to some quarterback conversations as well, as we got plenty of that, and we got plenty of time as it's Raiders offseason, as we know. So until tomorrow, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.